Are you going to put it right up? Okay.
And let me tell you, man,
Good afternoon, everyone. Our meeting is live, so now I'd like to call to order our Board of Police Commissioners meeting for September 20th, 2023. Nice full gallery today. It's pretty awesome, actually. Thank you. Please forgive me if you see me looking strange because I have no glasses today. So I'm not sure how much I'm going to get right or wrong, but that's pretty typical. Let's start with the land acknowledgement. Halifax Regional Municipality is located in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and traditional lands of the Mi'kmaq people. The municipality acknowledges the peace and friendship treaty signed in this territory and recognizes that we are all treaty people. Before we would get into the heavy parts of the agenda, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome to our table, in a more formalized way, our acting chief, Donnie McLean. Donnie, welcome to this table with us. You know we have a job to do, and you do too. And I just want to say how grateful we are that you've taken this on as a changing pace, the rapid pace that we're dealing with, and you stepped up, and we look forward to working with you in this regard, and stay open for support that's needed. And yeah, we're pretty easy folks, relatively easy to get along with. So if you want to take a moment and address the board and maybe speak to the gallery that's here today and to the public through, we'd appreciate any comments if you wanted to offer them. We'll get you to, yeah, you can stay there. That's fine.
Yeah, no, great. Thank you. Thank you for your kind remarks. Happy to be here. Happy and humbled to be here, actually. Like, I joined this organization 30 years ago and given a great deal of my life to this organization. I'm very proud of this organization. I'm very proud of the people that work for this organization. I've gotten tons of internal and external messages in the last few days, which have been overwhelmingly positive. I'm not saying there aren't other ones that are floating around out there, and if you haven't sent them, I thank you for that too. So for the people that have sent messages, I'm very grateful of that. And there's one I want to highlight that I got from a veteran sergeant in the organization, and I won't get into the preamble, but it said, "Congratulations, the sense of excitement and optimism is being felt on all levels of our department. I look forward to working with you and your team to progress HRP forward in a positive direction that reflects the amazing, hardworking, and competent staff that make up this organization." And when I read that, it struck me in two ways. The first way is really this next period of time, really my goal is to live up to those words. My ultimate goal is to live up to those words that were spoken. But the second part about that is that the part that highlights the amazing, hardworking, and competent staff in our organization. Like I said, I've been here for 30 years. I've seen that every day. Are there challenges in policing? No doubt. And sometimes we have to deal with that. But by far, that this is the reality of the organization I've been. I've walked the beat down in Halifax. I've supervised squads. I've made it to the executive office, and I've done just about everything else in between. And it's certainly that we are a profession full of competent, professional, hardworking, committed people, regardless of the stripe that you wear, whether it's blue, whether it's yellow. That's the reality. Red, whatever it be, the reality is that's been my experience over the number of years. And I don't expect that to change. There is the African principle of Sankofa that I'm sure some of you are aware of, that talks about being able to retrieve that which is valuable from the past and apply it to the future. So in that regard, I'm happy to announce I've retrieved to the past and I'm bringing back Deputy Chief Reed McCombs to be my deputy starting on October 3rd. He brings 34 years of experience and wisdom and leadership, and he will be my deputy chief on a temporary short-term basis to help me through this very important transition period. So you can expect to see that you will see him more often here around this table, as well as the members of my other senior leadership team who I've all met with. And my direction to them is, I don't need them to step up. They've always stepped up. I need them to step in. So they're going to step into this environment, and they're going to be a very important part as we move forward, and you'll get to know them as well. At the end of the day, and I've worked for a few chiefs over the years, all different. And at the end of and they all bring something different to the table. At the end of the day, the chief is in a unique position in which he's responsible to his members, and he's responsible to the organization, and they're not necessarily always in convergence in that particular time. But ultimately, we're all responsible to the community, and that really is the most important part of what we do. So it is my goal, it is my pledge that is my intention over this next period of time to work toward community, to work with the members of the board, to work with the elected officials, to work with the RCMP, HRPA, all those important stakeholders that need to be in the conversation to make this the best place that we can possibly be. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate that. So thank you. And I'm sure that the other members will have a chance, if they haven't already, congratulate you and welcome to the team. I'm now going to offer the floor to Chief Christie. He's got some announcements that we would like to hear. We will still do their chief updates, but this is just a little more unique time to things to share.
Thank you, Chair, through you to the board, and let me also echo and congratulate Chief McLean for stepping up at this momentous time. And certainly on behalf of the RCMP detachment, we see it as a historic day, and very proud to work with Chief McLean in the days and weeks and months ahead. So Donnie, congratulations.
Thanks. I'm glad to see you got all these people.
I did. We're gonna all stand up in a minute. So if I may, a team is exactly that. And we've gone through on the Halifax detachment side, a significant rebuilding process over the last 6 months. So I'm pleased to ask a number of folks perhaps to stand up, and they could stand up in any particular order, but starting with seniority, I'd ask Mr. Daryl Harvey to stand up. Daryl Harvey has extensive experience in the Halifax Regional Municipality and was arguably one of the DNA authors around the original integrated model. So Daryl has joined us as a de facto expert around integration, and he's going to be working very closely with Mr. Moore with whatever structure begins to unfold in terms of discussions, and certainly knows the integrated model very well. And just, Daryl, thank you for coming back to the team. Thank you. I'm going to introduce a stranger. No, he's not. Staff Sergeant Lyndon Morrison, who is his final meeting with us today. Lyndon is a National Operations Officer. He's one of the staff sergeants that no matter where you are in the Halifax Regional Municipality at 2 a.m. in the morning, he's one of the senior staff sergeants keeping an eye that makes sure the ebb and flow of frontline members to significant, it could be a Cole Harbour stabbing, could be a traffic accident that's impaired driving, etc. Someone like Lyndon is always on at 2 a.m. in the morning looking after folks. Lyndon really stepped up over the last 13 months. It's 13 months that he's been away from his core duties and his watch. And Lyndon, I brought a token. I don't think the chair will be too mad at me, but please accept a challenge coin, the OIC challenge coin, Lyndon. Sir, for your service in the last 13 months.
Thank you.
And please continue the leadership, not for us, but for all the people that we serve in H&M.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. To my far right is Inspector Corey Bushell. Corey Bushell has just joined the team from Enfield. Corey has extensive experience here in the province, and before that served in the territory of Nunavut. Corey has a background in staffing and federal policing, and most recently in 2 detachments. And he's going to be a critical piece in terms of the analysis and working hand in hand with community safety and Mr. Moore's shop as we reimagine how we deliver better policing and public safety in HRM. So Corey, thank you for stepping up, and we'll see Corey from time to time here at these meetings. Corey, thank you. Next to Mr. Harvey is Inspector Addie McCollum. Addie McCollum is approximately 27 years service, started in British Columbia, and he has joined the team in Lower Sackville. So Addie oversees all the operations and the senior staff sergeants for high-risk matters that are occurring. Addie too has extensive experience. Guysborough District Commander, most recently out of Pictou, working in hand in glove with colleagues in Westville and New Glasgow Police Service. So Addie brings a tremendous bench strength to our detachment as well. So Addie, thank you for stepping up to join the Halifax RCMP team. Thank you. Next, the next person in a white shirt is Inspector John Berger. John Berger is our plainclothes inspector that works hand in glove with Inspector Dave Boone and Andrew Matthews in Criminal Investigative Division, a joint team of about 125 really talented and switched on employees. So John is our commissioned officer within that team. John worked in the environment of HRM for most of the last 20 years, probably the last 13 or 14 years, having served up north too. So I want to thank John and what a tremendous commitment he brings to the team. He was double-hatted for much of the last year as well, doing an acting job in Cole Harbour, et cetera. And now to see him rise to the occasion and join our team is a wonderful event. So John, thank you for joining. And last but not least, the person replacing Lyndon Morrison, who's replacing Michael Flynn, is currently Staff Sergeant Jeff Mitchell. Nice name, so we're going to be confused at the table, Jeff 1 and Jeff 2, two Jeffs at the table. But probably the next time you see him, he will wear a white shirt of the commissioned officer ranks. I want to acknowledge what Jeff brings. He has a deep background in both federal policing, was actually in the school liaison position in Cole Harbour at one time, actually was out doing that whole side, Eastern Passage, Sheet Harbour, knows the district, also knows the headquarters in the integrated environment. He's currently one of our risk managers that work 24/7 to provide initial oversight for any high-risk calls in Nova Scotia, from Ingonish Beach all the way down to Yarmouth. So Jeff has extensive experience in Alert Ready and other practices and protocols for unfolding events that happen. So Jeff, congratulations on your journey, and thank you for stepping up and joining the Halifax team.
Thank you, sir.
That's the final process, and Chair, if I may, just to acknowledge your critical role in joining through the selection process and the expertise that you brought, and hopefully this team reflects a vision of modernization moving forward, working with Halifax Regional Police, working with Halifax Regional Municipality, working with the Public Safety Director, all for the 500,000 people that call Halifax their home. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Welcome to the team, everyone. Daryl, I will remind the chief later that it's not always the best way to introduce you as the senior guy, although there's credit due where that comes from, but it was interesting. Daryl and I have known each other a long time in our community. And John, I now remember now why I didn't quite recognize you. You were in a suit and a regular Joe look. Now you're in uniform. Sometimes that throws us off. Addie and Corey, welcome, and I look forward to continuing to work with you. I know the CAO would like to offer some remarks, and if any other commissioners would, feel free, let me know.
I will be brief. It does seem like we have about 1,000 years of combined experience of policing in the room today. I also want to acknowledge that I'm feeling very positive that we are assembling a team, whether it's within community safety or Josh within legal services and the HRP and the RCMP, the right people around the table to help us move forward with a lot of the strategic work we need to do around integrated policing, around community safety, the public safety strategy, the outstanding work coming from the defunding report, and also the more recent actions coming out of the Mass Casualty Commission. And I also want to thank and acknowledge Darla Perry is here today, who is our president of the Halifax Regional Police Association. I see a few other HRP members here, which we really appreciate. And I like the fact that we're starting off collaboratively afresh on working on a number of strategic initiatives. So thank you for that. And thank you for everybody's attendance today, because I think it does show support.
Thank you. I also, I don't know if anyone else wants to offer anything, but I do want to say thank you to Lyndon. Lyndon, you did step in very quickly when we needed that, and it's been a pleasure working with you, and we wish you, safe and effective policing and when you go back to your regular role, but I'm sure that we'll see more of you someday. Thank you. Yeah, probably in my district. Well, thank you, everyone. And let's move on with our community announcements. Does anyone have anything to offer there? I think these were great community announcements today. I think we've kind of covered off that. Approval of the minutes, we don't have any to approve. Approval of the order of business and of additions and deletions. We do have an addition that we need a motion on for an in-camera item. Madam Clerk, would you like to speak to that?
Yes, Chair Kent. Actually, there are two additions to today's agenda. The first one is item 11.1, which is Halifax Regional Police and Royal Canadian Mounted Police Chief updates regarding post-tropical storm Lee, and as well the in-camera item 13.2, which is a personnel matter, and there are no deletions.
Okay, and we need a motion for those additions?
Yes, we do, and I believe we also wish to have a change in the order as well. I believe that we're looking to move in camera up to before item 6.
Yes. Just for those who are here attending or watching, we have a commissioner who has a hard stop, so we want to make sure that we have the opportunity to have that person in our in-camera items. So we'll do our best to be as quickly as possible with due diligence involved as well. So, so we need motion for the change to in-camera brought up front. After item 6. I'm getting from our legal department and the additions.
Yep.
You move that, Commissioner Blackburn's moved it. Seconded by Commissioner Giles. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed nay. The motion is carried. Thank you. Business arising out of the minutes. Do we have anything from that, Madam Clerk?
No.
Okay. And call for declaration of conflict of interest. Are there any today? Hearing none, we'll now move forward we'll move into in-camera. We will be taking our in-camera session into the small office. Can we have a motion to go in
Motion to go in
camera?
camera.
Moved by Commissioner Blackburn, seconded by Commissioner Smith. Thank you. Thank you. We're going to be proceeding now with ratifications for 13.1. If a commissioner would like to put that on the floor for in-camera ratifications. Need a motion to ratify the decision that was made on 13.1. 13.1.
Yeah, I got it.
Go ahead, Yemi.
Hold on,
The recommendation as outlined in the private and confidential report dated September 18, 2023, to, as amended, and to direct the private and confidential report dated September 18, 2023, be maintained private and confidential. Thank you.
Thank you. So moved. Is there a seconder? Commissioner Blackburn, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion's carried. Okay, we'll now return back to correspondence, no. Yeah, correspondence and petitions and delegations. Do we have anything?
Chair Kent, there was no correspondence or petitions received by the clerk's office for this meeting.
Thank you. Any petitions? Saying none. None. Information items brought forward, there were none. Reports and discussions, we have a staff report now coming forward, 10.1.1 Halifax Regional Police 2024-25 Capital Plan Presentation. So I'll offer the floor to our Chief Financial Officer, the HRM Chief Financial Officer, I should say, Jerry Blackwood.
Thank you, Madam Chair. With me, I have Crystal Nowlin, who's Director of Asset Management, and Crystal will deliver the capital presentation. Thank you.
Oh, I need your mic.
Thank you. Is it on? Hello? Okay. Good afternoon, Board. Crystal Nowlin, Director of Asset Management. I'm here with you today to go over just an overview of the capital planning process that we're beginning right now for the 2024-2025 season. What I'll do throughout this presentation, hopefully quick and concise, is just give an overview generally on the corporate municipal infrastructure in general, talk about what our process is for capital planning, and then specifically the capital planning details with HRP specifically. So municipal infrastructure currently, the cost on our financial statements currently for what we own as a municipality is $4.3 billion. And just in general, when we speak about capital planning, it's not all projects that the municipality may encompass. We don't include small equipment. We don't include inventory or consumables. It is the large dollar value infrastructure that we hold for a long period of time, and it's all for the sake of delivering municipal services. Capital planning governance that we have in place to do this process is a capital steering committee corporate-wide, which includes the CAO, the CFO, and all of the executive directors and chiefs that work together to bring together a recommendation of capital projects to the regional council to then make the decisions on where we place our investment. The steering committee has two subcommittees, a capital working group, which includes approximately 50-some project managers across the organization that get into the details of planning the projects and executing those. As well, we're just starting this year an asset management community of practice, which involves a few of our core asset managers in the organization that we're putting together in place to advance our asset management practices and escalate or elevate our maturity. The questions that we take a look at really are about how do we choose which projects move forward for the most value for the tax dollars and other dollars that we have at our disposal. As you can imagine, there are always an excessive list of really great projects with a lot of merit that we do not have matching funding for. So there's quite a process that we go through to try to figure out how can we minimize the cost to the taxpayer long term, but at the same time deliver the most value to the services that we deliver. In the capital planning process in recent years, what we've done with the growth in the municipality and recognition that in past years, it's been challenging to balance both the current investment in the infrastructure that we have to keep that at a good level of condition to provide reliable, stable service to the municipality. There's also has been a growing demand for large transformative infrastructure projects for the municipality and to keep pace with the evolving world that we have with various codes, conditions, new scope, new design, what have you. So we are now presenting the capital plan and hopefully a more understandable structure, I think, to council and the public, which discern these two streams of projects. So our base program that we put together, council has reinforced for now the investment that we make each year, 20 to 30% on new growth infrastructure assets and 70 to 80% into renewal of that $4.3 billion worth of infrastructure we already own. Those program projects are really about maintaining the services that we deliver today. The Strategic Initiatives Program, currently there are 3 core strategic plans that have a large capital component to them that we are investing in. And you can see the icons there on the slide. The Cogswell District, Halifax Action Plan, and Integrated Mobility Plan, which is our transportation network, of course. And the recognition of keeping those separate are recognizing the point that investing in these projects and this infrastructure is really needing to be over and above what our year-to-year investment levels have been in the past from a tax perspective. Historically, over the last 5 to 10 years, we've been investing about $150 million a year in our base program, and we haven't always had that percentage of asset renewal, so we have a bit of deferred maintenance. We're not at a point where we can quantify that exact number of deferred maintenance. That's something that we're working towards each year, trying to improve our data quality. But the strategic initiatives is now expanding it, and we've been talking, $500 million to $1 billion in excess of what we're currently seeing in the base program. So how we go through this process every year in the organization across all the business units is we start with each asset group across all of the main streams of service. Those folks go out and they take a look at their inventory, what condition is it in, how is it operating in day-to-day service. They take a look at meeting with their stakeholders, their service providers. How is the infrastructure working for you? Is it still meeting your needs? What do you have coming up in the future that can inform how we're utilizing the infrastructure, what have you? They have each their own stream of prioritization and criteria that they go through before they bring it forth to us. We've actually had on the transportation side a consolidated transportation working committee in the last few years that work together now in more cohesion to bring forward a good collaborative overall transportation portfolio to us. And then once we come together as the corporate portfolio group, of course, then we get to the point where we have the list of projects that far exceed what we have the funding to proceed on. So we have a formalized industry standard criteria framework that we go through. There's matrices, decision matrices that we apply to each new project on those categories there, risk. So really it's, what's the impact to the service if we do not proceed with this capital project? What's the impact to service? The strategic alignment is against council's prioritized strategic priorities that we go through in the 5-year capital plan. And then this year, what we're developing to integrate into a new lens is a social equity component as well to elevate that lens and perspective on our projects. And as you can see over on the right-hand side of the slide, there's really that trade-off between, what would we like to see? What's the public consultation coming back as? What is the bare necessities of needs? We're trying to find that right balance between value and what can be. So the last piece is really around once we determine what's the highest priority projects to move forward, a whole different discussion is really, and when should that be scheduled? There's a lot of misconceptions sometimes that high priority means we have to do it right now. But for the sake of optimal investment and impact to the tax bills, there needs to be a whole series of other conversations and questions that need to come forward. What's required for public consultation? Is there sequencing or coordination with other projects that need to come in? Is there opportunity for cost sharing funding that helps determine when we should schedule that? So that's that final bullet around capacity to deliver. The other piece, of course, with that, when we think of the word capacity, is really our resourcing. So beyond the resourcing of funds available, we have to take a look at our staffing on the inside. And then, of course, externally, if we don't have the skill sets, we don't have the number of staff that we are required to deliver a project, we need to go to the market. And there's been challenges, as you all probably know and recognize. There's been challenges with that in recent years as well. So there's multiple angles on capacity. So then specifically to Halifax Regional Police, what I did was I pulled what is currently in our 10-year plan based on what was approved by Regional Council in April of this year earlier. As I mentioned, right now we're working on updating those assumptions and seeing what needs to be changed. So presently, the way we operate, there are 3 perspectives. We really have a 10-year outlook that we put forth, trying to give us line of sight and the ability to do some better planning, synergies, what have you. The more that we have listed for awareness, the more we have the ability to speak to stakeholders, to funding partners, and of course, across our various service streams within the municipality to determine the best value for planning and scoping those projects. Years 5 through 10 are really at a conceptual phase, highlighting a need or a direction that from that perspective. Council, the last 2 years, I believe, have approved a 4-year capital plan, of which the first year is the approved capital budget. The Halifax Charter gives council the authority to spend for 1 year. So the approval of years 2, 3, and 4 are an in-principle approval. So we recognize that assumptions will change, as happens with all plans and budgets in the longer term. Council looks at what is the content. Do we approve that these are the right things that are prioritized for alignment with what we understand today? And then it helps both us internally with staff, planning, resourcing. We can move to the next steps with on-ramping for design and coordination, perhaps some public consultation or researching with the industry that needs to happen, some consultation. It also helps the vendor community with understanding where is the municipality going with their needs. How do we need to perhaps staff up and plan for those expectations in the next few years? Specifically to this year, what we've done in the last couple of years with dates in the capital budgeting timeline schedule, this will come to regional council, so it's still draft right now for approval as far as the budget schedule for the upcoming year. However, December 12th, usually in December, what we've been doing the last few years is bringing forward a capital overview. So here's what we're looking at as far as seeing the major impacts, how well we're doing this year with progress on our current projects that are in flight. And at that point, we release the draft capital budget book, which has project details for typically between 150 and 200 projects. And then that allows regional council to have a month, more or less, with the details of the books to absorb those, understand those, come back to staff with questions if they need to do that. And then later in January, come together for the budget debate at Budget Committee. The HRP capital plan, as you can see, the infrastructure that's required to help support the service delivery in this service stream, facilities, equipment, vehicles are the main source. Obviously, in this day and age, a lot more IT technology support as well than we've had than ever before. As a service provider, HRP provides the guidance as far as I mentioned earlier, what are the service and program needs, and not only what are they today. With infrastructure investments, we typically think about how long is the asset going to last for a lifespan. It might be multi-generational. As in police cars, it might be 2 to 3 years. So there's a wide flex of time span. The items, the infrastructure that is going to last multiple years, multiple generations, those are the assets that we wish to think about the service and program delivery at that same line of sight vision. So where are we going to be perhaps in 40 years, 50 years? What do we need, say, for a headquarters building at that time? It's a different conversation, as you can imagine, than what's our service needs for a police vehicle that's only going to have a life of 2 to 3 years. With that said, then the conversation goes over to the projects are actually executed by the asset owners. So facilities design and construction on The building side, of course, vehicles are handled by our corporate fleet, emergency fleet, and then IT oversees the technology projects. HRP really only has oversight for a couple of projects on that list. And one of them, of course, is the equipment replacement budget. The large majority of that list that currently exists are all renewal projects that are there. I think that's the last point I wanted to make on that. So I know I'll point out actually really quick before I finish off then with the headquarters. I know this has been a project that's been on the books for a while. I remember personally that it coming forward in the 2014 in the planned and potential strategic projects. I understand that at the moment, you can see it on the list 10-year plan at this moment, beginning with some consultation and such in 2025, 2026. I understand that the point it's at right now is that a decision needs to come from this group, this board, for direction on what are the service needs. Is it community-based program delivery? Is it central? What size of headquarters? What components of the service needs to be included in the headquarters? Where does it need to be located? And then the asset folks with facilities design and construction can take those and interpret them into functional, technical design and work with you from there. So I believe that's the end of my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions from the board.
Thank you, Crystal. Now leave it, open it to the board. We have Lynn Dow, or Commissioner Smith, Commissioner Akindoju. We do have the CAO who has a question that she'd like to pose at the beginning before we move forward. And if we could ask the other commissioners just to identify and let me know if they want to be on the speakers list. Go ahead.
Great. Well, I have an overarching comment that we now have a new chief being sworn in tomorrow who hasn't had the opportunity to review this in all of its fullness. We have the opportunity to get the feedback from the Board of Police Commissioners today, but I think we also need to circle back around to Halifax Regional Police before we finalize what goes into the draft budget book. A couple of things that I will be asking or suggesting, rather, the new chief consider when that review is done. One is whether the proposed plan addresses occupational health and safety requirements for the existing building, recognizing that they will have to live in that building until a new facility is built. I have also reached out to the Chief of Fire Service to ask when the last time a fire inspection was done on that building. So I want to make sure that from an occupational and fire safety perspective, that we are budgeting for whatever recap we need to do for that building to get us through to a new one. The second thing I would ask, and it's one I'd mentioned to you earlier, is the municipality is running out of large chunks of land that we own, that would be suitable for this kind of building. I think it's important we get to a decision on the site for the new building in next year's budget. And I see the building budget is there, but that whole land decision and the siting of it, I think that might be sitting in another budget someplace else. So I just want confirmation that we do have a budget someplace to get us to the decision point on the location of the building for next year.
Sure, thank you, through board chair to the commissioner. So on the first point, yes, thank you for the recognition on the occupational health and safety. Within our project evaluation criteria under risk, public safety, occupational health and safety is one of the criteria that is assessed both on the level of extreme and then on likelihood that it will have impacts or negative impacts if not moved forward. And I know with this project that's been rated high at this point. For the budget, yes, coming back from that strategic capital report from years ago, there's always been a consideration that the funding that is in the strategic capital reserve, that is a potential holding for that. And we work regularly with corporate real estate on what those needs are. And I know they're putting together a new 10-year strategic land acquisition project to try to get ahead of some of these items. So there will be the potential. The land budget is not currently in this capital plan, as far as I understand it, but there is the potential whenever something comes back as far as direction, and then staff can take a look at what's the needs and what does the design look like.
Do we need a motion for that? Thank you, Crystal. Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Crystal, for the presentation. I have one question and one comment. The first is, and I believe this is the first time the board's ever received this type of presentation this early in the process. So, and I believe that's because of the direction the board gave some time ago of making sure that we had a budget process that done this. So I just want to say thank you to you and Jerry and everyone else that helped develop this, and especially the board for understanding that this is important duty for us to be able to talk about capital. And I know in the past that there was motions put forward to have this discussion, but I'm happy that we're finally to a place where we're getting this information. So thank you for that. So because both of you and the CAO mentioned it, I wasn't going to talk about it now, but I just because it was brought up related to the headquarters and land, I think we have a interesting opportunity here because, as mentioned, we don't have a lot of large sloops of land that we can access easily without opening blank checks. But I think considering we have Cogswell, which, the hope is that we'll open up land and sell the land to pay for the project. With the current place of where the headquarters are now, we could, if we were a little bit more strategic, we could use some of that land that we still own, potentially put a new headquarters, and then use the land where the headquarters are now and sell that to make up for the loss of revenue that we were expecting on Cogswell. So that's one thought. The other is across the street. I know that there's a motion from council to look at Centennial Pool and the future of that, and that's a large slew of land as well, which I think of the new Needham Center when that gets built. When the old Needham the new Needham is being built, and when it's complete, the folks can just walk across the street, and now they're in the new Needham, and the old one, whatever will happen with that, I have some ideas for that. I'll come to you later. But I think that could be an opportunity too, depending on what those discussions with Centennial Pool is in the future. If we do look at closing it and potentially selling it, I would hope that we keep it in public hands and maybe new headquarters could go there. So I think we have opportunities to, without spending money on very expensive land that we own currently, that we might be able to put a new headquarters. And I know that the officers here who spend many hours in the headquarters would love to have that done as soon as possible. But I think we need to do it right. So really, my comment was, I think it's important that we're talking about capital plan now. And I was going to mention, will the board have an opportunity to speak more about what we envision the headquarters being? And you mentioned that you're hoping that we will do that. So I guess, Chair, sometime in a future meeting, we should have a discussion on headquarters and how that looks. And maybe we need to bring some more senior officers and even some folks who may be on the ground who are working over there every day, and just have open discussion, maybe in a different type of form. I don't know, but I think it'd be very important for us to really talk about that, because I've been in there many times, many different reasons and occasions, and every time I just say to myself, what are we doing? Because for the size of a force we have in our headquarters, and then you go over to Dartmouth and you look at the RCMP headquarters and you're like, okay, this is what we should be doing. But anyway, that's another conversation. All I have to say is thank you, and I hope that we can have future discussions on this.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Blackburn? Oh, sorry, no, Akindojo.
It's okay. Thank you very much, Crystal, and like just echoing Commissioner Smith, this is the first time we have had the opportunity to discuss capital budget. We can talk about the building forever. I have been there. I did my first ride along. I started from the building, and it was totally unacceptable to me. But we can talk about it and talk about it. We are looking at the capital budget. Where in this capital budget is this issue of building that we're talking about? That's number one. You have beautiful structure here. You talked about 4 to 5 year plan, and I see this is up to 2033. I still do not see the actual capital budget for that building. So you may want to address that. And I also noticed that you've talked about 70 to 80% asset renewal. I just want to understand what that means. Does that mean your amortization? Are we grouping assets together? Are we grouping cars and buildings? And, the major part of this capital budget will be 3 major things. Police fleet, service equipment replacement, and management optimization. Nothing about building, right? It might be what you talked about, a capital reserve, but I would assume a capital reserve is on a building that exists, and they will start putting money aside to replace that building. But it's not within the budget. So it might be hidden somewhere. I just want clarity. If we have this in mind, where is it? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. The 70 to 80% that we look to invest each year in asset renewal. So for example, this past year, the overall HRM capital budget for the year was over $300 million. So what we aim to do is, of that $300 million, we aim to have between 70 to 80% of those dollars be attributed to projects that go into rehabilitating or replacing infrastructure that we currently already own. So yes, that would be, in that case, be set aside for replacing any municipal administration buildings that we currently have. That would fall into that category. The police headquarters, however, differently in regional council's direction from years ago, had asked to set it aside and take a look at it differently under a heading of strategic capital. So we do have a separate reserve that each year we put funds into for the sake of funding strategic projects into the future. So there's a couple of different fiscal strategies to deal with those items, but when you look at where the building project sits right now, the approach that we take is, if there is a project that is conceptual in nature, so we don't have firm direction on what the design is supposed to be, what the scope of the project's supposed to be, where it's going to be placed, do we need to do consultation? If we don't have all of the drivers and key facts able to actually start putting the wheels in place to, put shovels in the ground for a project, we typically put it out to, say, year 5+ in the capital plan. And then it's, there's more of a designation of conceptual in nature. So we do need, I'm saying we, but the staff need some direction from a service perspective on what are the needs before the program managers for the facilities group can actually start putting the design in place.
Can I have a follow-up?
Yes.
Thank you, Kathy. What I hear is it's not in plan. And what we are asking for is we need a new building.
Mhm.
Is it possible for us to ask for a plan And how long would it take to have a plan? If there is a budget, we think there's a need to look at that building. When is that going to happen? Is it within our plan or is it not within our plan? I just want to know because I see 10-year plan and it's somewhere, we need staff planning, we need land, we need everything. Is this going to happen? If it's not going to happen, what's the alternative? Thank you.
Okay. I can tell you that our facilities project managers are in conversation and discussion with Halifax Regional Police to move the plans forward. They are working diligently to put things in place so that we can move it forward. And whenever there's the decisions that a detailed project plan can be put in place, that project will come forward and be scheduled whenever they're ready to proceed with implementation.
Thank you. And my last question. You talked about the Capital Steering Committee.
Go ahead.
Who is involved in HRP in that committee? And what's the involvement of the executive of HRP in this project? Thank you.
Thank you again for the question. So the representative for officially on the Capital Steering Committee, as I said, is the CAO, CFO, and the executive directors and the chief. So the chief of police would be the representative on that committee officially, or a designate if he's not able to attend.
If I could ask my clarification.
Yes, the CAO, please.
Just to clarify that I'm reading this slide correctly, I'm concerned there might be an error in it that I missed. So looking at slide 6, the top row, police headquarters, there's $90 million there. It's a 4-year build that would right now commence in 25-26 and complete in 29-30. Or is that last column meant to represent the spending for the total of the last 5 years?
Correct, the range.
Because building this type of building, it's not going to take 10 years. If we start spending the money in 25-26, this is typically a 3 to 4 year build.
You're correct. And it's just for the sake of the size of the slide, I didn't extend it out. It's likely only in 28, 29, but just overall for all of the projects, I condensed into a range.
So just building on something Chair Kent mentioned, what you've got in the right-hand column is not meant to be a total. That's the capital money that's sitting in the years 28, 29 to 32, 33 period.
Correct.
So in effect, we're not dragging out construction of police headquarters over 8 years. It's a 4-year build.
Correct.
Yeah. So my question then is we just need to look at the timing of how that's split across the 4 years based on the land decision. We may need to shift things ahead by 1 year, I think.
Correct. And just to reiterate, the numbers that are there are purely based on conception right now until there's a determination on the service side of what kind of size and structure of a building would be needed. Those numbers could drastically change.
Thank you.
Commissioner Giles?
Thank you. I'm also confused, and I became more confused as a result of the CAO's comments. So I understand now that there is a budget of $100 million, give or take, to build a new police headquarters over the 4-year period commencing in 2025. Most businesses are now budgeting for capital projects for between 1 year and 3, and no more than 3 to 5. What is the level of certainty on the $100 million figure in total, given the fact that the project is not going to start for another 2 years, that it's going to take 4 years to build?
Thank you for the question. As I mentioned, right now, the scope would be like plus or minus, 50% on the estimate.
Yeah.
This estimate for $100 million and the timeline is just based purely on a rough estimate there's no hard and fast understanding of what size of building, what the design of building, the location, what have you right now. So it's just purely conceptual at this point.
Okay, so when you talk about a rough estimate, would I be overly pejorative if I was to suggest it was like taking a dart, throwing it at a board?
I would have to say, I'm not here as a project manager putting the estimate forward, so I don't want to speak on behalf of our facilities folks and what their methodology is for putting forth the estimate. I'm just relaying the information that we've been asked to put in the budget for now.
Okay, but we can confirm, you and I, that there's no site, there's no schematic, and there's no quantity survey to understand what this thing might actually cost in 10 years' time. Thanks.
Just to answer that question, and then I'll go to the CFO on that. There is a study that was done, I believe, in 2017, which our executive director of property, fleet and equipment has shared with me. That was a conceptual design for police station. I'm not sure if it was 2017 or what exactly the year was, but it's a little bit better than a dart on a dartboard. I don't know if I'd say it was a Class D estimate, but it does contemplate square footage, does have some unit rates, but of course those would all need to be updated to today's rates. And also the service requirements would need to be re-examined. For example, standards around detention cells have changed in that period. So there are building functionality issues that would need to be totally updated. When we see numbers like this in the capital plan, and HRM's capital plan is, I don't know, $500 million right now, I think. It's a big number. But we put placeholders in for some of these larger items. And then as we progress through the process, we get increasingly detailed estimates. We'll move from Class D to Class C to Class B and eventually get to a number that we've got more confidence in. And the CFO probably knows way more than I do now about this process.
Excuse me, thank you, Chair and CAO. Yeah, so I think Crystal and the CAO have sort of cleared up your Commissioner Giles' question. I do think it's important, we're here right now just giving a capital overview and to Crystal's point, right? Finance's role in steering capital is we're not involved in any project design, land acquisition. We fund as those pieces, come forward. So again, just to reiterate what, Crystal and the CAO have said on this, right? We balance capital to a funding plan on a 4-year cycle, right? But we have a 10-year outlook. So to Commissioner Giles' question, right? $90 million is a placeholder in terms of that longer term outlook. But again, right, it's what is the policing model in terms of, is it a centralized headquarters? Is it going to be a decentralized, more community model? Land acquisition, conceptual design, those things have yet to be determined. And then that will further determine the funding model, as well as some of those numbers shifting back into more current years as opposed to out years. Thank you.
Thank you. Not seeing anyone else on the speakers list, so I'm going to ask a few questions myself. So just help me understand, how long has this potential project for a headquarters been on the list at council in your budget? I know we had some kind of, which reference today, 2017 was some kind of a report that would have been estimating at that time. What can we as a board do in relation to initiating something to council on the importance of getting started? Perhaps a recommendation of a steering committee being struck this year. I worry when I hear the suggestion that because there's no discussion, no idea of the size and the look and the elements of it and the land and the cost, there's no design, that it'll easily get pushed out. We see in this presentation, the 3 priorities that were listed there that was said today will take precedence and bump out and potentially bump out other things because those are so important to council. And I think that I need to know what we can do here as a board to get this moving, even for something to start that conversation. I'm not comfortable with the idea of seeing 2 more years with 0 funding, even if it's just to have an admin support for these conversations to begin. I've done similar to what CEO has done and other commissioners have done, other commissioners likely in the past. We go to the headquarters, and it's not just headquarters. It's the West Division in the bottom of the basement of a fire station where they are crammed into like very few rooms, single shower for a whole West Division of patrol members, and all of the sergeants, staff sergeants, and the QA. I don't even know. I can't remember all the little languages, the acronyms. But there's a lot of people over there, and Dartmouth was the new shiny East Division, and it's wearing out now, and it's not accommodating what we need. And obviously, the pieces related to the occupational health and safety aspect of HQ in Halifax. I just think it's time to stop pushing it out, bring it forward to some degree, even if it's striking that and getting those conversations started. So I'd like to know that. The other, I'm pleased to see some funding for police fleet. I'd like to see more. I was terribly disappointed and I've been doing I've been participating in watch briefings in all the divisions and all the different watches, and I think there was about 12, and consistently there were members who couldn't go out on patrols. There was no car, or the police van. The old fire van that is now being used for policing is not equipped the same way a vehicle would be for them. And I could go on, but the point here is that I'm glad to see it there. I look forward to having a conversation with our new chief around where do we really sit with the complexities and the needs around safe vehicles for our members to go, not only to be safe, but to potentially transport citizens who deserve safety and accurate and reliable vehicles, but most importantly, to respond to the calls that they get. And similarly, I'm glad to see the service equipment replacement. And I hope to hear from the chief in the future on, is this getting there? I feel like when I see the priorities and I know these are priorities of council, the Cogswell interchange, the integrated mobility, and I forget what the third one is. But to comprehend that those are seen as the highest importance in our municipality now, and we don't see a layer of public safety in that high priority now. And I understand from the CAO that there's some conversations that might happen, but I feel compelled as the chair of this board to say that needs to be considered as a priority. Our public safety piece, we put a whole new department. We have Bill Moore leading it. We are looking at very different public safety issues than we were 15 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago. So I'm concerned that that's going to leave our police services sort of left out of the conversation. And I'd like to see that change. There's more conversations that we're going to talk with you, Chief McLean. But the last question I have is, how do you integrate, and where does the conversation happen around the piece that is reflected in the capital needs of the RCMP? So the RCMP are our other partner in policing. They come with equipment, they come with uniforms, they come with all that they need, but there's a cost associated to them. And then when a request from the chief comes to us and it gets recommended or debated, there's very little conversation in debate and or potentially in a report that would reflect that cost comes with all of that. So really, it's a hidden benefit that doesn't really get considered in a capital plan, because until it becomes an operational decision for funding the request. And I think it needs to have some consideration along the way to fully understand and really project what is at play when that request comes in from the chief of the RCMP, that this includes all of those capital investments and capital costs that would otherwise have to be borne by the municipality in your capital considerations. So I'll leave it there. See what we can get for answers. And you want to have a question afterwards? Can we
Thank
just
you.
get these answers first?
Maybe if I say this, it will be part of the answer.
Okay.
I think Kathy has done justice to this. I'm from the private sector, and I can simply differentiate a capital plan from a capital budget. What I want to see is the HRP's capital plan. I'm lost in all this. I see HRM. I do not see HRP. And I want to see how the capital plan works into HRP's capital budget. That way, it will be easier for me to understand what's going to happen 2 to 3 years, 3 to 5 years for the police. Where's the building? I see vehicle replacement, I see service that, but I do not see certain things. So I want us, and you asked a question, you said, how do we get this? I think the board can ask HRM to proceed with a plan for a building. It's a question, it's an ask. Why can't we ask? Ask the councillors to vote for a plan and bring this plan to us. That's my question. Yeah.
Kathy?
I found the report I was referring to. It's actually 2018 report, and it actually is a plan for a building. I think our starting point is to refresh that report and have a presentation done to have this Board of Police Commissioners informed on the work that's already been done today. And in the meantime, this has been an excellent discussion and feedback that we can take back through our Capital Steering Committee and work with the chief to see, how we adjust these lines.
Thank you. I know that Chief McLean would like to speak, and I still would like an answer in relation to the RCMP piece.
Which way?
Go ahead, Chief McLean.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I did want to point out that there has been work done on this, actually. I didn't remember the exact date, but there has been, when I say work, like some substantive work that talks around actual, now, will that need to be adjusted, given the fact that it was still a few years ago? Undoubtedly. But even going before that, and it wasn't a hastily put together plan, because those discussions probably started, well, Bill, you would have been still there then, like back in the 2014, going back to quite some time. 12, well, there you go. So but the challenge with that then is, the longer this goes on, the more of a frustration it begins in terms with, I think, I certainly understand, I'm pretty sure all of my people understand, there's not going to be a building built tomorrow. Like that's not going to happen. It's going to take a while. But what I can tell you is, and it's heartening, and I've had communications from HRM staff sent to me in this last 3 days along with about 8,000 other emails about certain things that actually spoke to the building piece. So it's actually in flight having these initial discussions, which is heartening. And it's very heartening to hear from all the commissioners here today supporting it, because that's obviously something that our people need to hear. I can tell you, the architectural piece of, I'm not an architect, but the architectural piece is important. I can tell you what's actually really important is finding a site for it that you can point out to people and go, there's where the police headquarters is going to be. I'm telling you, people will certainly take a lot of, stock in that actual decision. And that's something, and I know that there's a process that has to go through and all that, but I can tell you that that's a very important piece, that if we can get to that as quickly as we can, going through the processes and all the other stuff, that will be a very important milestone in seeing that this actually coming to fruition. And the other piece you talked about around fleet, obviously fleet is a very important piece as well. As you well know, it's a frustrating piece for people, and I understand there are a lot of reasons for it that are difficult to come, supply chain issues and all that. It's hard to go buy a car just on your own now, like in terms with all these other things. So there's an understanding of that, but we need to keep the push and we need to go on, because these are important things. And we'll have other discussions around different safety type vehicles in the future that I think are also important to delivering our service.
Thank you, Chief. Jerry?
Thank you. Yeah, and I won't sort of go over, what the CAO and the chief has said, but I want to speak to your point why things get pushed out in terms of a capital budgeting process, right? So, as the chief mentioned, to build a building, you need a piece of land. Okay, so from a budgeting perspective, if we don't have land and we move these numbers back and say, okay, we're gonna put $50 million in next year's budget for a police station, we don't have land to build it. That's $50 million of budget capacity, funding capacity, tax capacity that could be taken away from another project, a library, a sidewalk, street recap, right? So not to rehash on the land, but things get pushed out based on, do you have land? Is there a conceptual design? And do you have council direction? So I'll leave it at that. I think the chief spoke to fleet. I did have corporate fleet in my portfolio at one time, and we had a really good relationship with police. Supply chain is definitely a factor there of sourcing vehicles, fire trucks, service vehicles right across the municipality. And just on the RCMP piece, I'll be short on that. I know RCMP is a policing partner and integrated, but I guess to simplify, RCMP is not like a business unit. HRM cannot invest in capital assets that we do not own. So the RCMP, for all intents and purposes, is like a service contract. It would be the same, for example, our snow clearing contracts, they bring their own capital, they bring their own snow plows, et cetera. So that's kind of similar to the RCMP, is they come with an upfront cost that's with their capital pieces that are built in there. So we don't fund capital for the RCMP. We fund it as an operational contract.
Thank you. I think that I appreciate that response, but I think I'd like to learn more about that, and I think it'd be worth more for the board to hear more, because there is a capital component, even though it's not ownership of what you get when you pay for a police RCMP. You're paying for that capital piece. Yes, you don't own it. It is a contract. I agree. But anyway, I've said my part. I think that it's important when you come to us and council that that's reflected in the consideration of any request that would come from an RCMP chief, because it's quite often lost and overshadowed by the cost of policing by the RCMP. So I'll leave it there. Commissioner Blackburn.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I'm just wondering, based on what the CAO just said, would it be worthwhile for this board to ask for a refresh of that 2018 report and a presentation at a future meeting of Board of Police Commission? Would we need a motion to do that?
Do you want to offer something on that?
I think if the board passes a motion, it's always helpful because then we can use it to convey that it was a priority when we go present something to council.
Okay.
All right. Is that something that I could just do from the floor right now? I'd like to move a motion that we ask for a refresh of the 2018 report on the on the building plan for a new HRP Police Headquarters and schedule a presentation to the Board of Police Commissioners at a further date.
It's in order, seconded by Commissioner Akindoju. Any consideration on that? We'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion's carried. I don't see any other speakers. Thank you very much, Crystal, for that. And we'll move now on to 10.1.2, Halifax Regional Police 24-25 Business Plan and Budgetary Preliminary Presentation. I seem to have two.
There we go. Yeah, now it's green. Good evening. In case you haven't already came to realize, this is my third day. This is my third working day, and then there seemed to be some confusion as to the presentation. So this presentation will be very generic, very high level, very much stuff you already know. The most probably important parts of this presentation are actually the last 2 pages that are contained therein. So I won't belabor the issue much further. These are the numbers from the 23-24 budget, which represent a 6.1 increase, $94+ million. This commission approved it through council, so you already know that. 816 full-time employees, sworn officers, civilian, approximately 531 sworn officers. Some factors influencing public safety. It's something that you should be aware of in terms of, so the crime severity index and violent crime severity index, which are released through StatsCan, and the crime severity index is all criminal incidents that are reported within a general area. So whether it be Halifax, whether it be a CMA or Toronto, whatever the place is, they speak to all incidents. They include traffic, they include drugs, they include federal statutes. More importantly, the violent crime severity index, which is 104/19, is above the national average and has been going up for the past couple of years. The violent crime severity index is only those incidents reported through UCR or through Stats Canada that actually speak to violent incidents, assaults, robberies. It includes, they just added threats and harassment and forcible confinement into it recently. But it's just something to get your head around in terms of, this is where we stand in terms of the rest of the country, and this is for Halifax CMA. So this would be the urban area within Halifax, as it relates to the rest of Canada. This is the Halifax Regional Police Strategic Plan, because you really can't have a PowerPoint unless you throw in some nice colors and a few things. So this talks about what is our raison d'etre? Why are we here? What do we do? Crime reduction, improved quality of life, safe communities and partnerships, effective and innovative police service. And there are some bullets underneath it that speak to how we get to what it is that we want to do. Again, these are all things that are contained within our business plans and have been for quite some time. The 23-24 business plan, upon which obviously budgets and strategic plans and priorities, all have some basis in the 2015-25 strategic plan. Although I remember being a part of that 2015 strategic plan, and it's hard to believe it's been that long. Bill, obviously you had a big part of that going back, and it's hard to believe it's been that long. But issues like public education on crime prevention and public safety, promoting workplace respect and eliminating harassment, obviously recommendations from the Wortley report, the hate crime from HRP's hate crime, youth engagement, the HRP technology roadmap, proactive training and recruitment, the release of HRP policies, which I think was an issue within this particular body, and obviously staff training to better serve diverse citizens and issues around journey to change and that sort of thing. So these were business plan ideas that informed part of our last budget cycle. Now, where are we now? Some of those things are still irrelevant. So in terms of themes going forward that will end up informing our budget, I think are these community, and these are not exhaustive. These are not everything. These are part of the things that I think are very important to the operation of our organization. Community safety, addressing recruitment and retention challenges, workforce engagement and member wellness, obviously our relationship with the public, our response, police response, proactive policing, operational readiness, our mental health response, and certainly last but not least, but obviously the police transformation study as it relates to the PwC report and released to our relationship with the RCMP and overall to our community. So this really just sets a very high level sort of thing from my mind about what are the kind of things that we want to look at. And again, I think maybe the next slide is maybe the most important slide of all, which is what is the Board of Police Commissioners' feedback in terms of, at some point when we come back here, I'm really interested in getting the feedback from the board about what you see as being important for us to deliver as we go forward. And I think that perhaps, especially at this particular, like 3 days in, as I said I went to the briefing today for the protest that was happening downtown, and I spoke to all the members who did a very exceptional and professional job. But I just want to add and throw that plug out there for them, right from their leadership down to the constables on the street. And I said, this is my third day. Please let me have a fourth. So in terms of, and I think, they did an excellent professional job. And but again, I think in terms of budget preparation, all this, it's very important to get the feedback from the Board of Police Commissioners. That's why we're here early, and that's why we're here having this discussion. And really, that at this particular time, that's where I'm at, and I'm here to take any questions.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions from commissioners? No, I'm not hearing any, and I think that what I would just like to offer is that certainly from perspective of being a commissioner and have had a number of opportunities to engage on with people, with community, with members. This isn't a list that this is a list I'm impressed with. I really appreciate that we have those themes. They're being identified. They're certainly in keeping with our strategic priorities that we have. I think most of them, if not all of them. I'm pleased to hear. I'm really pleased to see community safety, and it may not have intended to be this way, but community safety, top priority in my opinion. And how do you get that done? By all of those other pieces, the tools, the operations pieces, the relationship with the public. Really super glad to see that. I think that's a critical piece at this juncture for us. The responsiveness, obviously, mental health response, that plays into just so many of your response calls, but also the significant challenges in public safety that we're dealing with around housing and homelessness and the efforts of the municipality in that regard, and the public safety office. And then, of course, the transformation study. Really pleased to see this as an important theme that you've identified today. So thank you for this. I feel encouraged by it. Yeah, it's a great day, number 3. Well done.
And you're all invited to see number 4. So hopefully I can get to number 5.
When you get sworn in.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I won't be long. And again, just want to say, finance, we're we'll be working very closely with the chief and his team on this. But just in terms of as the budget unfolds and back in August, I think we put a little bit more rigor around having dedicated meetings around budget instead of, kind of like we do at council, instead of throwing it on an agenda of a whole bunch of other important things that you deal with. But when you look at the police budget, it's a $95 million budget. 95% of that 95 million is staff, right? So 90 million of that 95 is compensation and benefits, and another 5 million. I know a lot of that staffing goes into different levels of programming, but there's another 5 million. So, in terms of that, sort of opening your mind up to how, to make best investments. And I think it's really good feedback tonight on the capital discussion. And we look forward to certainly the discussions to come and the direction that's going to be given from this board. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we leave this item, just on behalf of the board, did you want to speak again? No?
I was just going to add that Jerry and his team have been extremely helpful in this relatively very brief, quick process in terms of, I think, one of the first meetings I actually had on Monday was with Jerry's team, and I'm extremely grateful for their input and look forward to continuing to work with them.
Good, thank you. On behalf of the board, I do want to reemphasize the point that Commissioner Giles brought up, which is we would like to see more of the detail in the capital budget from the police, which would be, I think, Donnie, you being able to answer to those things, because I don't know that we got, I think, where we were expecting to get, and that's okay, because this is better than we've had, and this is great. This is the way to start. The other thing for my message is to our commissioners, we have dedicated, changed our scheduling. We meet monthly. We have added a second scheduled meeting in every month. And this is where it's going to the rubber's going to start to hit the road on having those utilized, in particular for budget, because Jerry reflected specifically too, we have felt rushed. We have felt like we haven't had in front of us what we needed. We're going to be very attentive to that, working with Jerry's group and through the CAO. And obviously attendance is going to be critical. So if you don't attend, don't complain. Thank you. Commissioner Akindoju.
Thank you very much, Chair. What I'm understanding is that we would have some time later to go into the details of the budget. My question would have been for you to prepare on, we're looking at year-over-year 6.1% increase. Why 6.1% increase? Could it be less? Could it be more? More especially from what Jerry just said, 95% of this 96 or 95 million is staff. What's going to happen to your recurrent expenditure? Given the inflation, given that, we want to really dig down into this and see, is this 6% the right thing? Could it be 10? Could it be 2? As at this stage, I can't speak to that. I can't support that. And I would like to do that. So my goal is to understand a little bit more. So are we going to have a date for more details? But I hear, Jerry, that we're going to have a couple of budget presentations. So I just want to rest at that point. Thank you.
Jerry?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so this is just a preliminary meeting tonight. We wanted to, I know a lot of our capital presentation was fairly intensive on a lot of the process and the governance, but we thought it was important for this committee to have that information. But as we go forward with the budget, more details will be coming forward. So on the capital budget, I know there was probably 6 different categories. They were related to business systems, fleet, and of course the headquarters. But behind those numbers are, project plans and what the spend on those dollars entail. But just for the benefit of the commission, if you want to go online, our capital budget book is online, and you can get the details of the current capital budget there if that interests anybody. Thank you.
Chief McLean?
Yeah, through you, Chair, to the Commissioner. I just want to clarify that the 6.1% is not a projection for next year's budget. The 6.1% represented what the jump was last year compared to the budget before. What the percentage increase will be for this upcoming budget, we have no idea yet.
Yeah, I understand. That's why I said year over year.
Yeah.
Correct. Thank you.
And if I could add as well, Chief and Jerry, I think one of the things around the capital budget and budgets are that we would like to see sort of the complement of all the expenditures required, and how does this fit in? Because that's what we get. We get projected of what is the new thing for this year, but we don't see how it slots in to your whole piece. And that's what was missing. So something to consider when we're going forward on what you bring here. Thank you. And any other commissioners, if I've got that wrong, I don't think I do though. Yeah, we were missing the big picture and just getting the newness of what's being sought after as a change for this year. Okay, thank you all very much. That was great. Really appreciate it. And we will now move on to commissioner updates. There are none. Added items, Halifax Regional Police and
Excuse me, Chair, 10.3.1 needs to be dealt with.
oh, yes,
Yeah.
sorry, I missed that one. 10.3.1, appointments to strategic, I don't have my glasses, Strategic Priorities Working Group. We need a motion put forward. Okay, Yemi, Commissioner Akindoju. 10.3.1. We have it.
That the Board of Police Commission appoint Commissioner Kent, Blackburn, and Giles to the working group to finalize the action items and timeframes associated with the Board of Police Commission strategic plan priorities.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Second. Commissioner Blackburn, second. Any debate? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion's carried. Thank you. So 11.1, HRP and RCMP updates regarding the post-tropical storm Lee. We'll start with you, Chief Christie.
Chair, thank you. Good evening. To you, the commissioners, and the community, I'll make very brief comments.
Sorry, thank you. What was that?
By all means, I'll make brief comments specific to.
Yes, thank you.
the
Go
hurricane.
ahead.
May I just say, before I make those comments, just to acknowledge Commissioner Lisa Blackburn and Josh Bates for attending the Leadership Nova Scotia Police Chiefs and Governance Association. Both were robust participants, along with Chief McLean and his team, and several of us from the RCMP, and in particular, Mr. Bates, the presentation on some of the exciting work that the municipality is doing around police governance. So with your forbearance, thank you for allowing me to make those quick comments. Regards to the hurricane that we all lived through, I'll just talk about the volume of calls in the sense that while my mandate tonight is to speak about the RCMP, really everybody responds. There's firefighting folks responding, there's folks at dispatch responding, et cetera. And often there's municipal employees from a whole range of services that respond, that go out on those stormy nights as well, such as to Peggy's Cove. So between Friday evening, when the storm was beginning, through to Sunday evening, we had over 300 plus calls in the RCMP dispatch to our members. Just a phenomenal response. At the same time, I had the good fortune to visit the Emergency Operations Center of Halifax Regional Municipality. and see the dedicated team under Mr. Moore's portfolio, including Director Fleck, be there working with the Provincial Coordination Center, working with Bell Alliant, TELUS, as the power outages went down. And certainly on behalf of Halifax Detachment, we keep in mind the significant impact to so many Nova Scotians and Haligonians that were without power and afraid and at sometimes worried by roads that were being flooded, debris that was being put on them. And yet so many different, through the spectrum of first responders, including HRP, were there to provide support. It did certainly highlight for me, being at times in the Emergency Operations Center and talking to some of the first responders, how important it is that we ask for cooperation of the public to listen to the guidance of experts who may close roads or ask areas such as Peggy's Cove not to go out near the waters. Those profound events of nature do present significant risk, not only to first responders, but to folks that often choose, for whatever reason, to disregard the direction. So I want to acknowledge all the RCMP employees and families who also, along with the other folks, were impacted. And certainly as we learned during the wildfires, and I think it's a reawakening certainly in some of the police leadership, how do we look after the families of employees that may be without power and yet are out serving? And so can we begin to imagine that the RCMP detachments, for example, are mini comfort centers for maybe police folks that are without power. So I think we need to continue to grow and learn through our own internal assessments of these events. But I'm very proud of the work that was done. And I think the municipality can be very proud of the HRM EOC team led by so many dedicated people that were there monitoring hour by hour, minute by minute, along with the Provincial Coordination Center. So subject to any questions, Chair, but those would be my comments for the table.
Thank you. We'll proceed with Chief McLean, and then if anyone has any questions in relation. Thank you.
Yes, Chair. Can you say everything he just said? Like, really, at the end of the day, I echo every one of Jeff's comments in terms of what happened. Our impact was slightly different within the core of the city, related to the more suburban rural area. But certainly, we had impacts. We had, we were staffed at the EOC, and certainly the leadership from the CAO and the other directors around the table, I think, led to a pretty seamless response to the events that day. I think, certainly you're at the whim of nature, and certainly I think we were lucky in the sense that Lee decided to go a little farther west than come a little bit east in terms of it may have caused more particular damage. But certainly, to the number of calls we went to, and it was a Saturday night, so we're going to a number of calls already. Certainly, I echo his comments. We don't have Peggy's Cove, but we have the boardwalk where we have to send officers down to make sure that they keep themselves out of harm, which is unfortunate, but it's a rally and what we have to do. Certainly, the call takers are dealing with the load of calls that are coming in and directing people to the proper resources and all that other stuff. I just want to say that, it was truly a coordinated effort, and my thanks go to all of our members, civilian, sworn, otherwise, to the RCMP members who responded that day. And I do want to say, particularly, me and Jeff communicated that day. He actually offered up his detachments to our members as well, or families that were in the area. And I almost took you up on it because I was out of power for 24 hours. So it was, that was really helpful and gracious, and I really appreciate it. I know it came from a good place. So, and that's my comments.
Thank you very much. Anything from our commission members? No? Well, thank you all for the service that you provided through the weekend and every day. Thank you.
Chair, if I may make one supplemental comment.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd encourage the board to consider visiting the Emergency Operations Center. I don't want to be outside my lane, but I think the totality of the coordination is really significant to seamlessly provide support throughout the municipality. At one point, and I could have the number wrong, and Mr. Moore or the CAO could correct me, something like 100 different roads were impacted by downed trees. And the municipality really has a global oversight through that team. And it really is a testament to some very switched on people that man that facility. So that may be something worth considering in due course.
Thank you, I appreciate that suggestion. Moving on with our agenda, 13.2, we did all of our in-camera. So number 14, notices of motion. Are there any notices of motion from any members? No. The date of our next meeting is October 4th, and we just need an adjournment motion. Moved by Commissioner Giles to adjourn. Thank you all very much. Yummy, we did it.